Well, looks like we're live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. What's up, Radar? Yeah, I figure there's no better way to enjoy coffee than with you fine people this morning and do what we always do, try to take over the world. I mean, we try to understand Delphi, which is the equivalent. 517 Kells, what's up? Good morning. Beach Fairy, Night Shadow, Sparky Doo, how are you? Jinx, No Scrub, thank you for hitting the thumbs up or liking the video. I appreciate it. True Crime Housewife, good morning. Olivia, hope you guys had a great weekend. Karen Bentley, hello. D, good morning. Miss Thang, good morning. V Marie, good morning. Sylvia, hello. Bass Girl, good morning to you. Susie, good morning. Julianne, Jill, hey. Nicely done. Hello, hello. Good morning, Violet Gal. Awesome. Now I'm missing somebody. Oh, there's Jari. Well, there's a few things that we're going to go over today that I would like to get your opinion on. Some things I really have just heard for the first time today. So we'll see what you think. But we'll start here. This was the FBI's response to ISP and Carroll County, kind of throwing them under the bus for the whole conservation officer and Richard Allen interaction and the reason why it was misfiled. They're saying that they followed procedure to a T. Let's see here. This is in quotations the FBI's response. As stated in the past, this is a complex multi agency investigation. The implication that an alleged clerical error by an FBI employee caused years of delay in identifying this defendant is misleading. Our review of the matter shows FBI employees correctly followed established procedures. Sources indicate during the early days of the investigation, dozens of law enforcement personnel and volunteers answered a tip line and sifted through the first of more than 72,000 tips that were gradually received in this case. There is no indication at this time of how a substantial tip regarding a middle-aged man in clothes matching those of the killer, admittedly walking on the Monon High Bridge that day, did not receive heightened attention or further inquiry for more than 5 years. On October 13th, the day investigators raided his home, Allen told detectives that he recalled being on the trails leading to the bridge the day of the killings and was there to watch the fish. A witness told police he spotted a man wearing a blue colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared he had gotten into a fight. So this is directly from the FBI. So they're asking the same questions. They're like, how does something like this happen? How do you have a man, a middle aged man, basically giving you the exact description of the guy you're looking for? Whether you knew that at the time and it's now you know it the following day, something should have been done by that. How does that just go by and nobody notices? I think it's one of the oddest parts of the entire investigation so far. Hey, Kelly. Good morning to you. I love marbles. Hello. Good morning. Hybrid Pisces says, when I say we are missing something big, I mean that I predict in the end the timeline that we all cling to will be wrong. We are way off somewhere. Yeah, that's why you should not be clinging to any timeline. And I'll show you why here in a minute. We're going to be listening to, let me get the title right. Well, the podcast is titled Murder in My Family. Awesome podcast. They cover all kinds of stuff. The link is in the description. We're going to listen to about 5 seconds of an hour and a half long interview that the podcast Murder in My Family did with Mike and Becky Patty. And there's a very interesting question that he asks, and Mike was kind enough to answer the question. So we're going to talk about that. I didn't see any updates on Richard Allen's My Case. But they've been doing it on Wednesdays. The activity will happen on Tuesday, and then the update takes place the following day on a Wednesday. At least that's how it's been happening. So we know the state of Indiana submitted some subpoenas requesting information from a third party. And now Richard Allen's defense and Richard Allen is asking the judge to reconsider allowing those things. But nothing new. Hybrid says, I'm not close to the idea that we've been deliberately misled. And I don't want to say deliberately misled. I just don't think we should expect anybody to go out of their way, to clear things up for us. They're not. They're going to just continue going about their business. And then when they need us, they'll put out more information. But yeah, I haven't seen any effort to go back and clarify any of the information, really. If anything, they just muddied up the waters more. Yeah, but I mean, that's a good question. That's the question we've been asking ever since we heard about the interaction between this conservation officer and Richard Allen. Like, how is this possible? You're telling me that we've been looking at this insane case and wondering why the hell it hasn't been solved. And the guy basically confessed from day one. It makes you wonder. That's why people are attracted to this case, because they know there's like some kind of hidden hand. Whether it's one person or an entire conspiracy, I don't know. But I wonder if that's part of it. That whole interaction there and the fact that it went unnoticed. What's up, Indy? All right. This is at a Johnson Space Center. It's from 2002, but I think it's interesting knowing, um, well, at least Anna's telling everybody that they took that video, the bridge guy motion video, to Disney and NASA. And after reading this, it actually helped me with my analysis of that video. See here. NASA researchers help local law enforcement agencies catch crime suspects. Typically, researchers in the Image Science and Analysis Group at Johnson Space Center provide analysis of images of spacecraft hardware for engineers. Recently, however, they were able to use their expertise to help law enforcement agencies by enhancing photos and videos of crime scenes. Friendswood Police Department and Pasadena Arson Division came to NASA for help. NASA researchers captured still images and digital movies from videotapes provided by investigators and performed enhancements of that imagery to bring out the detail that were not readily apparent in the original. Our enhancement, this is in quotes, our enhancements of the original imagery help these law enforcement agencies obtain indictments and even confessions from suspects, said Mike Snyder, Lockheed Martin project manager of the JSC Image Science and Analysis Group. The group reduced image noise and enhanced detail. This multi step process includes de-interlacing video frames, selecting appropriate sequences, and then carefully aligning multiple single images and adding or averaging them together to create a composite. The averaging of the single images is a common technique used by astronomers to reduce background noise in observations. We digitally enhanced video images to help identify vehicles and or suspect attributes such as face and clothing. David Bretz, a senior scientist for Hernandez Engineering in the JSC Image Science and Analysis Group. In the Pasadena case, we enhanced images of a repeat arsonist caught by a video camera set up overnight by the victims. It was just enough improvement so that the victims could positively identify the person, which led to his arrest and written confession. See, that's the part that I find interesting. Like, they don't need this to stand up in court. They may have just been using it to try to get the confession. Or maybe to get somebody like the family to say something. Teresita, hello. Copper Horse in the house. Good morning, Copper. How are you? Indy says, I've always believed the girls were led away and brought back, then killed, hence them not being found that night. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. $517 Kels. You need a Sleuth Crew hoodie? Hey, what's up, Purdue? Nope, you're not late at all. What's up, Nate? From Jump, they were adamant about the girls not meeting up with anyone and the crime having nothing to do with Snapchat, but yet it was all the opposite. It's a good point. Thanks, Jari. To make such a definitive statement was not just a mistake, it was misleading. Yeah, and if you're trying to solve a murder, really your only hope is the public. It's your evidence and then whatever the public's going to give you. And usually you use your evidence to kind of provoke something from the public, right? You're like, this is what we have. Maybe this would jar your memory or something, right? Somebody out there, this is so why hold information back? That's the part I never understood. And a lot of these cold case detectives, people like John Douglas, when they talk about Delphi, that's the first thing they say. They don't like the strategy of it all. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And it's not what they would do. But then again, the very moment after that is, hey, I haven't seen, the case file. So they don't know why they're doing it. They just know that it doesn't make sense right now. Good morning, Bobby. Poll question: Coroner murders done and over by 3:30. FBI suspect would be bloodied and no struggle, but were they found, dragged, cleaned by water at any point? Too much unknown. Yeah, we definitely don't know. We definitely know less than we know. That's for sure. Oh, kids can be sneaky. You can be checking your child's phone, and they'll still get by you. So it's like you can be doing everything that you should be doing, and it's still not enough. Good to see you, Deb. Radar. Let's see what else did I put together here. This was, I think, posted by Tara German. She was talking to Douglas Rice, rest in peace. I can say when I got there, there were a few kids that I knew that went to school with Libby, and they were under the bridge as well. So I'm going to say that is not uncommon. And we know she got there like around 4-ish, like right before 4. So I thought that was strange. That is sometime after the crime, of course. So I mean, it's not really that crazy. Just interesting. Yeah, open communication with your kids. What I like to do with my kids is give them an alternative. Like this is what I like to do. I like to say, "Hey, I'm worried that you might do something like this. I just want you to know that you have this option over here and that I'm okay with this, This is more supervised, and I would rather you do this than if, sneaking behind my back and doing something where nobody can help you or can answer any of your questions if you run into a problem." Hey, what's up, Charlie? I think this case underbelly to has an underbelly to it that requires them to be so vague and withholding information from the public. DC said he's never seen anything like this. It's not just a cut and dry murder. Yeah, the tentacles. Largest CSAM ring. We hear things like that thrown around. Yeah, that's true, Radar. Hi, Jessica. The letter you just read makes me feel better, but in my opinion, BG definitely resembles Richard Allen. I think it's him. Yeah. I mean, the more and more I look at that image, the more and more I can see Richard Allen and kind of understanding what's going on with the image. And after reading that article from NASA, it explains kind of what they did, why we're seeing so many different faces and so much movement. It's part of the process. And it may not have been made for the courtroom. You know, that might not be something they use in the courtroom at all. That could have been just there, you know, during the interrogation. You have that playing like, hey, man, that's you. Look, that's you. Look, who's this on the screen here? Isn't that you, Richard Allen? You know, you said you were wearing a blue jacket and blue jeans and some kind of a hat, right? Well, that's you right there. You were there between 1:30 and 3:30, right? Well, this is right at 2:15. So I can see that maybe assisting in an interrogation. Jinx is saying, "What do you think about wife Lilith's lives?" Honestly, I don't have opinion. I didn't watch it. I was watching her in Ruckus, and I just don't think. I mean, if you're just gonna sit there and give vague information, honestly, I wouldn't even pay attention. You're gonna just put up all these questions and then not give any answers. Me personally, I don't play that game, but I know why you guys are interested. She's very interesting. You know, that's a good strategy that certain types of people will put out there. Hey, and it's entertaining. I mean, that should be the focus of YouTube, right? It's all entertainment. All these people that come out here and get all worked up and act like they're going to go kill some YouTuber, you know, because they're just so angry about what they're doing. That's just ridiculous. And those are the crazy people out there. YouTube is here for entertainment value. That's it. If you don't like what you're seeing, you're going to change it. You guys can come in here and say what you want in my chat room, but you're going to go right into the next chat room and say something else. And it does not matter because you're just talking, you're just chatting, you've chosen to spend your time this way. And me personally, I appreciate it. And if you want to go spend your time that way as well, cool. But my personal opinion is you're not going to find anything there because even if she knows exactly what happened, she's not going to tell you. Because if she did, then there goes the mystique of it all. So definitely no hate from this end, but I mean, I'm not gonna bite on the worm. Will I dismiss? I don't dismiss anything. Kevin, what's up? It's weird if taken away. Why would they get brought back to the scene and not killed somewhere else? I thought possibly they told the bridge guy that they had video and ditched the phone, but I have no clue. Yeah, that is a good point, Kevin. And I always wondered that too. Like, if we're dealing with a lone wolf, why not just plan like a kidnapping? Why not kidnap like a young child? Why go to these trails and like try your your hand to hand combat skills with two young teenage girls? To me, that seems very difficult. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. But that is a good point. If you're going to take them, why would you bring them back there? You would take them completely somewhere else, like the Evansdale case. Unless they weren't taken in a vehicle and they were just taken somewhere close by, you know. It would be very risky for you to take them in a vehicle, especially if it's your vehicle. You're putting all kinds of DNA and tying yourself to the crime that way. I think minimizing it would have been in their best bet. So I'm thinking if they did take him somewhere, it wasn't far. Yeah, that's something that bothers me. I never understood that. Shooter. It doesn't make sense to take the girls away, and it also doesn't fit into the timeline either. I mean, it definitely fits into the timeline. They were confronted at 2:15, and Muddy and Bloody Guy wasn't seen till 4. And it doesn't make sense to kill two people in the middle of the day. So I'm trying to find out what were they motivated by, where they were willing to take these risks. They, him, whatever. Yeah, Bonnie, I do wonder what was going on with those cameras. And I'm sure at some points they're just sitting there. You know, they haven't had a chance to change the batteries or change the memory card. Unless the girls went willingly, perhaps brought back under the presumption they were going home, and whomever they were with panics and might tell something. It's a stretch, but yeah, it's very possible that when they went down the hill, and we all know that's kidnapping right there, being forced down the hill. Um, and if they're concerned about a gun, you know, get in the car or come with me or, you know, do these things and I will not hurt you. Okay, we're going with you. It's possible. Thank you, Purdue. Yeah, hit that thumbs up. Could be, could be. That live stream on Saturday was yeah, that was a good one. Yep, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just stalk the streets at night? Like, what are you doing there in the middle of the day walking by all of these witnesses? Unless he just got lucky. Maybe as soon as he was done, he was like, okay, I'm getting, you know, going to prison. But the cops never came. Jessica says, I'm not interested in what she says so far, but I do like Ruckus. Yeah, Ruckus does rock. Not more than Sleuth Intuition. Aw, thank you. I will say it again. I like the way you think. Thank you so much. Bass Girl, I heard talk of there being underground tunnels under the bridge. So he may have taken them there and unalived them and then brought them back to the scene. Well, I know that there was a report of a culvert, but there hasn't been much talk about that. And there's so many people involved in this and so much news to be reported. I can just see how some people could misspeak or maybe even use the wrong term. Or maybe even just misquote somebody. Yeah, seems motivated. But by what? What would a lone wolf be motivated by? You know, passing potential victims. I don't know. It's just so strange. It's hard to see a lone wolf doing something like that. Because lots of times when we cover these catfish types, these online predators, what they do is they're in fantasy land, so they get prepped. They've had plenty of time to think about it, so they bring their little kits with them. Like that Connor Tidd guy, when he met this young 13-year-old girl, he brought his little kit with him. There was toys, there was duct tape, there was a knife, there was, you know. So for all we know, that's, you know, Richard Allen was like been fantasizing, but may have been catfishing. So he's like, well, I can never do this in real life, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna do it. And if you look at the guy on the bridge, it almost seems like he has like a bag over his shoulder or something's going on where he's got some items with him. His pockets are stuffed. So I just don't see like a lone wolf type killer prepping that way. Like this is a pre-planned type deal. And I feel like the catfishing part was to get them down there. Nate says to be killed in the middle of the day in broad daylight with no one hearing a scream. One person taking two teenagers down that were athletic. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and finish the last half hour of this live stream with that conversation. I'm going to pull up the podcast Murder in My Family. Once again, go check this podcast out. I don't see a lot of people talking too much about it, but it's a great true crime podcast and one of the better interviews with Mike and Becky, in my opinion. They talked a lot about rumors and gave Becky an opportunity to kind of speak her mind and vent a little bit. So I really appreciated that. Link is in the description to the full interview. I'm only going to play about, I think, 10 seconds. It's the part where Mike is asked if he thinks the girls could have been taken and brought back. So I think it's at the 1:30 mark. Let me just locate it. And if you cannot hear this, please let me know.
One of the things I just wanted to ask about, and maybe you know this, maybe it's something that police have chosen not to share. There was some discussion that possibly their bodies weren't there the night before when the search was happening, that they may have been put there, wound up there after the initial search. Do you know about that? Is that true or accurate?
Well, I've had nothing from the police officially telling me that, but just based on facts and information that I've collected, I have no reason to believe that they weren't there and they weren't brought back. And that's just based on the fact that I've talked to a lot of people who were involved in the search or involved in different aspects of this, and but nothing official has been said. Yeah, this is where they were. This is where they've been. They haven't been moved, because obviously until we catch the perpetrator and answer all these questions, you don't know exactly what happened.
Were you guys able to hear that okay? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I was going to pull a bunch of maps and talk about this, but I think I'm just going to play the RTV6 chopper footage. That gives us the aerial view and what the area looked like. I'll just keep that on mute. And another strange thing is the CPS building. Apparently, you could just walk in and out of there. So it does make me curious why there was all these vehicles parking around there and those vehicles reported. I wonder if the vehicle that Brad Heath reported, I wonder if they found out who that was, and that's why they never really followed up on it or made a big deal about it. I wonder if they were like, oh, okay, we know whose vehicle that was and we know who they are. Because if you park right there, it's the beginning of the trailhead, really. Like there's a trail that goes right from where Brad Heath said the car was parked. If you park right there, that's basically the beginning of a trail too. So Birdman, hello. I think they just simply didn't find them that night. It wasn't a super organized grid search, it sounds like. Well, one of the things that shocks me is around 6 o'clock, they came to Ron Logan because they had been trying to get into his property, but they didn't want to do so without his permission. So they're kind of lingering around outside his home, near the cemetery, across the street, covering the Mears property. And he shows up around 6, coming back from the aquarium store. And they say, "Hey, Ron, this is what's going on. Can we search your property?" And he didn't argue with them at all. He says, "Well, yeah, go ahead." Without hesitation, he's like, "Yes, you can search my property." Now, the one interesting thing is the main trail. If you follow the main trail from his property that's right on the edge of his property and on the border of the cemetery, there's a trail that goes from right there, that corner, directly to the crime scene. So if anybody was searching from his property and they're taking those trails, they would have walked right into the girls. And even Ron Logan says it multiple times. He says, and he kind of even goes into his visual side. He's like, they were laying right there. And he kind of leaves his arm out in front of him. And he's like, you can just tell that he's seen it with his own eyes. And look where he's standing. He's on this heavily walked path. And right from on top of the hill, it overlooks the crime scene. And I'm sure that's why they thought he had some involvement in it. Because if you take that trail, that's the trail that goes to the crime scene. So I just don't understand how they could have missed him. And Ron Logan even says that in an interview. Margaret Lee Reed. Yes, Mike Patty doesn't know any more than we do. Law enforcement haven't told him yes or no directly, but if he made an educated guess, his perception is that the girls were not taken past the general area. That's what the man said. And I guarantee he knows more than we do. And I think that's what he was trying to say. Like, I don't know a definitive answer. And me knowing more than most, I'm going to say, I'm going to lean against that. But he couldn't say for sure. And he shouldn't know for sure. Hey, return the diamonds. I think they were murdered and hidden in the water. Killer came back when search was called off at night and the crime scene was staged then. Indy says it is odd that the CPS building was left unlocked and unattended. I don't know if it was unlocked, but they definitely unlocked it. And as kids, that's just what you do. Not all kids, but just as teenagers, if you're out there hanging out and that's where you guys park and hey, this is an abandoned building. Let's see if we can get in here. Oh, it's locked. Oh, here, use this screwdriver. Oh, there it goes. From that point on, it's just open. Yeah, that's a good point. Ives does say it was just odd. Like, what does that mean? Odd. He doesn't say shocking, you know? He doesn't use words like brutal. He uses words like odd. So it makes me think that the killer wasn't creating or leaving signatures and staging and all that for shock value. It was more like maybe for misleading purposes. This is a good view of the sandbar right here. You guys see it running all the way down the middle? And this thing right here is actually, I believe, a table. Most times of the year, it's sticking up out of the water, I believe, right here on this part of the sandbar. Teresita Hillis says ISP Burston said it was a white sedan. When did he ever say that? I've never heard Burston say that. I would like to see that because I keep hearing about a white sedan. The end of Julie Melvin's video that she took of the presser. Okay. If you can link that, but I'll go take a look if I remember. That's interesting. A white sedan, huh? It's a good question, Olivia. How can a brutal murder scene be pristine? To me, that leans towards the dump site theory. You know, things were kind of cleaned up a little bit. And it's also concerning when we hear about Erskine and the types of wounds. That's what scares me about what might have actually gone there. Because we have, I think we have a Tyson's plant there and in Kentucky. We have the Packers plant. So you could have these hog farmers and these butchers and these truckers or somebody who's all of the above who has no problem doing these types of things. You know what I mean? And when we hear the types of wounds, it's very reminiscent of the old techniques with these slaughterhouses. So we could be dealing with some extremely violent people if that's what they did and it wasn't just this random attack. You know, if it's pristine with those types of wounds, to me, they took measures or that's what they went for, you know? And to me, that's the part that's really scary if that's what happened. Shooter is asking, I wonder if he went around kicking leaves around and mess up the blood streaks of the ground. Supposedly it was cleaned up by investigators. Yeah, I'm sure they probably scooped up all those leaves. I know there were some trees that were cut down. I don't know if they were cut down prior, but I could see maybe investigators cutting the trees down themselves, taking portions of the tree, analyzing them. Gail says when they said they were moved, it was just staging. And that's not what I'm referring to. I'm not referring to the moved and staged. And I guess even that comment right there in itself could tell us that they were killed right where they were taken. So you might have been right without being right on that one. So that is a good point. Why would they mention them being moved if they believe that they were actually dropped there? You think they might word it a little differently? Why the middle of the day? Because the kids were out of school and whoever BG is either had lunch or was off work or got off work early that day. Yeah. I mean, if you ask my opinion, but I don't think there's any solid evidence, but yeah, he definitely was catfishing them. And most likely had that place picked out long before he had his victims picked out. Maybe. You know, he's walking and hiking down there. He's like, one day I'm going to, this will be the spot right here. Hybrid Pisces says, Derek German is an enigma to me. He should be. He might even be a witness. He could be the young guy sketch witness for all we know. Jinx says, I do not understand how the girls weren't found until the following day. Yeah, Ron Logan had the same question. And when he asked that question to these two girls that were interviewing, it sounded sincere. He's like, I don't know how they didn't find them. There was people stomping all through there. And in my opinion, if you follow the trail, it leads directly there. Let me see if I can find an image. Might help me better explain what I'm trying to say. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is on the 15th. This is from Rich Van Wyk. I think he's from Wish, WTHR. Police still at the crime scene and waiting for autopsy results to identify the bodies believed to be those of two missing Delphi teens. Well, the image that he took is right on the edge of Ron Logan's property. So to the right is the cemetery over here. Now, right here is the path that Ron Logan was taking all of those reporters down. And I might even have some of those. Let me pull that up. I think I still do. Those might help a little bit more. Okay, here it is. So look at this trail.
All I can tell you, they were in the center of that tape. If you see it, it goes around in a loop.
See, it's still got the tape up right here. And it's right down his hill. Right down that little hill. Look, you can see the trampled path right here to the left.
And that's your property up to the water? Or
Yes,
where does
they're
your
up to the
line
property.
up to the water?
Right up to the property. Half a mile, all the way along the creek is belongs to this 40 acres.
How far are we from the Monon High Bridge?
Right over
40
there, you see
acres.
it. You walk down a little bit farther. It's about 1/8 of a mile on the other side of that creek, and it runs like this. This ground runs like that. The creek makes a bend. It all comes together right down there across from that brick house. And that's the last pictures they had
What do you say? That brick house?
at the end of the bridge. How in the world they got all through all that to
Brick
down
house.
So the bridge is right over there.
here? Yes.
How difficult, I mean, you know this land better, 53 years here, right?
Right.
How difficult is that to get?
Yeah, he just mentioned something about a little, like a brick house. I'm going to have to go back and listen to what he
The
said.
center of that tape, if you see it, it goes around in a loop.
So, I mean, the question is, how are you as a searcher? I mean, you're going to go all the way down there, right? And he's saying they're right there at the bottom of this trail. Thank you, V. Taken, drugged, assaulted, filmed, brought back under the assumption they were going home to keep them quiet, then killed. I mean, what if they never ran across the creek? What if they were just taken somewhere and then brought back on the other side? I don't think that's what happened. What's up, Cheeks? Yeah, I don't know. Shooter says, I think Richard Allen hustled them over to Logan's land, took their lives, did his sick stuff, and then hustled up to 300 and hustled to his car. And I mean, he could have kidnapped the girls, brought them to Ron Logan's, and Ron Logan was like, I'm not sticking around for this. Stay, don't do anything on my property. And then he's like, I'm out of here. Leaves, comes back, and is like, oh my gosh. Like he realizes what has really happened. But in my opinion, there's nothing to indicate that Ron Logan had prior knowledge or anything. But you never know. Vanna says, I've asked lots of questions about why the scene wasn't found. Basically, bodies in a depression in the ground, partially covered with brush, heavy fog, late afternoon, till noon the next day. Well, let's put it into perspective. At 6 o'clock, this would have been one of the first trails that they took. Hey, Ron, can we search your property? They're going to look around and he's going to say, yeah, there's a bunch of trails back there too. If they were on this trail, there's no way they could have missed him. And the place that Ron is pointing at, there's no indention. He took, what's her name? McAdams. He took her down there. There's no impression down there. It's pretty flat. Doesn't make sense. See if I have any more Ron Logan videos.
Here or anywhere else anymore. Here or anywhere else anymore.
Ron Logan is now in custody on an unrelated probation violation. I recently spoke to him about the murders.
You just cannot believe this terrible thing that happened to the community and the families actually happened here on my property in my backyard.
He told me he has an alibi. buying tropical fish 20 miles away.
I was not home during the time that all this was happening. I was in Lafayette.
Yeah.
And I didn't get home till approximately 6:30 in the evening. And then the neighbor stopped to ask for permission to look back here for the girl.
Liberty German shot this chilling image of the suspected killer approaching the girls on a hiking trail, and she recorded the killer's voice. What do you hear on there?
Nothing that I recognize at all. No one. I don't recognize the voice at all.
I asked Ron Logan to repeat those same chilling words.
Down the hill.
And that image of the suspect?
The picture is of such poor quality, it doesn't look like anyone I've ever seen.
Police have not revealed what led them to search his home, but said in a statement, "We basically are here to try to eliminate him or put him as a higher suspect in our case." Ron Logan told me he is devastated by the discovery of the bodies on his property.
That was like being hit with a bolt of lightning on my property. I mean, you just can't put words to it. Yeah. If here or anywhere.
Crazy. Olivia says no lone wolf, premeditated. That's where I'm leaning. I'm thinking having a rough time, a lot of stressful situations, maybe suffering from some mental health issues, hanging around with KK, being exposed to the catfish world, while your wife is preoccupied. Breaking Kagan's #1 rule. You never meet in real life. Not with him, maybe. Or maybe he's just purchasing a device from Kagan. Picked it up that morning for reasons that were his own. You think as like a child, like an online predator who, let's say, is married or has a high profile job or something like that, but you're, let's say, into that kind of stuff, into CSAM, maybe you would go and like purchase a phone that has everything you need, right? You can hide it. You could hide it from your wife. You can hide it from your coworkers. You could hide it in the car, kind of like a cheating spouse, cheating girlfriend or somebody with a burner phone. Load it all up, give Kagan a few $100, boom, you got it. So maybe that's why Kagan was trying to figure out, was so interested in the Delphi case, because he was like, wow, maybe somebody that I sold a phone to or gave access to the account, I wonder if it's one of those guys. Thank you, V. What's up, Chopper? Good to see you. GP. Exactly. I feel that Ron Logan went down there, discovered them, and decided it was time to clean up. I don't know if he would clean up. Honestly, I don't see any connection with Ron Logan whatsoever. Honestly, I don't see it at all. His land is so big. And if think about it, let's look at this through the lens of a lone wolf theory, right? You're out here on the trails. You're going to go all the way to the end of the trail so that you can see everything. You know, you're doing reconnaissance. Okay. I know everything that's going on this entire trail from front to back. There's 3 teenagers. There's a couple people walking around. So yeah, he may kind of started to duck low, knowing that this is where all the trails kind of intersect. He's like, maybe I'll just hang here. Because if we learned anything from speaking with investigators, a lot of these predators will hide in plain sight. They'll just kind of mix into the scenery, kind of blend in and just watch. And we also know the criminals tell half truths, right? And he told investigators that he went and I think hung out at a bench. And that could be the very bench that the 3 other witnesses were kind of hanging around at. So for all we know, he could have been making a move on those girls, you know, and then decided against it. And then he's lingering, you know, at the bridge, and here comes this single female out for a leisurely walk. And she comes and turns around. He could have easily followed right behind her, stopped at the bench. And then here comes Abby and Libby walking. And he's just watching from a distance. Witness doesn't see him on the bench because she previously saw him on the bridge, but now her attention is on the 2 teenagers. She's just looking at him, but to her right, out of her peripheral, would have been Richard Allen sitting at the bench there. She sees the girls, gets in her car, and just kind of hangs out there for whatever reason. The 2 girls, Abby and Libby, begin walking towards the bridge, pass by the bench where he's at. Richard Allen makes a comment to them, which makes him immediately the creepy guy, right? So they continue walking. He's still lingering over in that area because we know he didn't jump on that bridge until after 205, 207. Then again, those very photos could have been some kind of indication for him, like this is your target, or and maybe he didn't interact with them at all, and he was just waiting on those Snapchat photos. Boom. Maybe Anthony Schatz requested them, like, hey, when you get there, prove it. Send me a photo of you on the bridge, or send me a photo of you on the other side of the bridge. Prove it to me that you're there. So that's why we don't see the bridge guy anywhere in those photos, because those are the photos that he was waiting for. Those were the indication that it was time to strike. Maybe. Yeah, Charlie, that's what the probable cause affidavit says as well. Let's see here. One more thing, and then we'll get out of here. This was sent to me this morning. I think it might be Instagram. I'm not sure. Hey, Peruvian 69. Haven't seen you in a minute. Peruvian says, is it too simple to think Richard Allen visited the trails until the timing was right? I don't know. If he was out there kind of mapping it out, you think more people would have recognized him as somebody that was out there, especially like a Dan McCain, who is constantly out there and is pretty much responsible for the upkeep single-handedly. Would have probably recognized him maybe. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't take the traditional trail. So right here, there seems to be the name Blaze Jones 07. And Liberty's asking, who are you? Like, who are you, dude? Rumor is it was like a 47-year-old local. Yikes, Karen. Made me a little queasy. Yeah, sometimes I think if the Erskine texts are like 100% real, and that I don't know because there's conflicting information in them. But it makes you wonder why the wound was so severe on the neck, almost as if that's what they wanted was the blood, you know? Like, why else would you do something so violent? And then their interest in like Packers and Tyson's, and they're linking the Stevenson murders, and they're using words like tools associated with an occupation. But then they talk about a trucker. So I don't know. It just makes me think of something going on with these, like the Tyson's plant and the Packers plant, because they have trucking and, the slaughtering of animals. And I think Tyson's came to Delphi, I think in 2016. So it would have been just a year prior. What's up, Brad? Want to say maybe the crime scene was discovered, but they held off until daylight to investigate more thoroughly. That's interesting. You know what? That actually does make sense. I would have to ask, like former homicide or a homicide investigator, if that's something that would actually be done. Because to me, it makes sense. Secure it, have some people stay overnight watching the scene, making sure, because you don't want to start trampling it at night. To me, that makes sense. But I don't know if it's realistic. Shooter says, I agree. It is odd that the searchers missed them, but I can also see mistakes happening during the search. Just watching where Ron Logan, the path that he takes, knowing where they were, and how in multiple interviews with media, he says right there, and he's standing on top of this hill, right? And you can see it's just past the entry point. Because it's not far from the cemetery to where the crime scene is. It's not far at all. It's not an easy walk because you got to kind of go up. From what I've seen, watching Randy Gravitt, Greeno, and all those other people that were hiking up that, it's not far. It's just kind of like an uphill walk. It's much easier from Ron Logan's property. He has a trail that goes right down there. And multiple times you can see him walk halfway down the trail and point. I just don't see how they could have missed him. There's no indention. There's none of that. It's flat right there. The only thing I can think of was there were some trees that were cut down. So I'm wondering if they were just kind of hidden in a grouping, in a tight cluster of trees. That's the only thing that would make sense. If they were covered and in a cluster of trees, the searchers would walk around that cluster. But the way Ron Logan makes it seem is they were just out in the open. Stephanie says Ron Logan is too tall and BG to be BG. Anyone believes he's BG is choosing to be. See what he says about Brick House. Oh, yeah, let's go back to that. Yeah, what is he talking about? I've seen that video like 100 times and I never caught that part. I was too busy looking at where he was pointing and I wasn't listening to him.
All I can tell you, they were in the center of that tape. If you see it, it goes around in a loop.
And that's your property up to the water? Or
Yes,
where does your
up to the
line
property.
up to the water?
Right up to the property. Half a mile, all the way along the creek is along to this 40 acres.
How far are we from the Monon High Bridge?
Right over there, you can see it. You walk down a little bit farther. It's about 1/8 of a mile on the other side of that creek, and it runs like this. This ground runs
Ron's already
like
out of breath.
that. The creek makes a bend. It all comes together right down there across from that brick house.
Oh, across from the brick house. What brick house, though? Across from the brick house. I wonder if that's the mirrors. I think they have a brick house.
And that's the last pictures they had at the end of the bridge. How in the world they got all through all that down to here?
So the bridge is right over there?
Yes.
How difficult? I mean, you know this land better. 53.
Yeah, he was kind of pointing towards the Mears property. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's definitely brick, huh? Yeah, so he was pointing over here at the Mears lot and said the brick house. I wonder if that's what he meant. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here in about 5 minutes. I'll try to catch a couple more of these comments. Let's check out Cheeks. Honestly, there should not be a lot of visible blood in a wooded crime scene, really. The ground will soak it up, and we really don't know the extent of the wounds, so speculating over that does nothing. 100%. Yeah, we can't verify the Erskine stuff. The only thing we can verify is the Ron Logan affidavit and them expecting the suspect to have blood on them, which is telling. Hey, what's up, Jerry? I agree with you, Sleuth. I cannot rule out anything, but there is no evidence at all that directly links Ron Logan. I cannot understand the obsession with him some creators have. People are strange. Well, there's a lot of documents that are going on in regards to Ron Logan behind the scenes. And people seem to be interpreting the information very differently. Steve Curry says there's lots of evidence it was Ron Logan. I wouldn't call it evidence. There's no evidence. If there was evidence, he would have been charged, because when it comes to Richard Allen, really the only evidence they have is the unspent bullet and his own confession of being at the trail. It's those two things that link him to the trail and then him to the crime scene. If they had any evidence, Ron Logan would have been in jail and charged. even one tiny drop of blood, the tiniest. Hey, Rescue. Good to see you. Yeah, he bought $100 worth of fish. Kim says, every true crime story breaks my heart, but this one tore it from my chest. Two besties enjoying the day and some monster torture and kill them. There's a special place in hell for the guilty. Yeah, how do you do something like that first and foremost? And then how do you hide for 6 years and just go about your day, just go about your business? This is at Jari. Why would Ron ask his friend to lie about driving him at a specific time? It's not about the driver's license because he didn't ask his friend to lie about driving him to the dump earlier. Nate, you're wrong. He did. He did ask. Not only did he ask, and I have the paperwork to prove it, not only did he ask and lie that somebody else was driving, but I think it was in 2016, he was arrested for drunk driving, and he asked the cop that he knew personally if he could lie and have somebody else in the driver's seat. And I think there's another time he tried to do something very similar. So he has a history of like coming up with alibis and stuff. So he was doing that way before the Delphi situation. And these are documented instances. Do with that information what you will. All right, let's go to one more. Hello, Heather. Hello, Cammie. Let's see. Cammie says Ron Logan not involved at all, in my opinion. I'd buy the McCain brothers theory or PB before Ron Logan theory. Ron Logan was a victim too, in my opinion. I mean, it's hard to blame him. There's plenty of things to talk about. Definitely to where I would say, yeah, this is really fishy, and he may have had some involvement. But if I can't piece it all together, it just seems strange for me to kind of go on the attack with him. Because there's a couple of other people, like you said, PB and people like that, where it's like it seems very suspicious, but it's really nothing when you look at it all. But it's one of those things like it's nothing now, but when it's all said and done, it could be everything, you know? Let's close out the poll before I forget. Steve Curry, why would the defense want to not grant it? What, the subpoenas that are recently happened? Yeah, not only did they want to reverse the judge's decision, they wanted to make sure that it was kept from the public. So maybe it's a tactic to make him squirm, maybe. Maybe it was going to reveal somebody's name. He's like, no, we can't have that. Here, I'll talk, you know. Ron Logan is the exact height of BG. Yes, you solved the case single-handedly. What's up, Lauren? Hey, Carol. What's up, Rock? Yeah, we're about to get out of here. Thanks, Ruckus. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Never know. Maybe we'll meet up a little bit later. Wednesday, I don't have a cool guest, but I do have something planned. So we're going to have some fun Wednesday. So be prepared for that. All you members out there who like to hang out, all you sleuth crewers. So we have that to look forward to. And who knows? Maybe we'll do another Delphi chat tomorrow morning. It really depends on if I find anything or if I have any decent conversations with people in regards to the case. Kind of get some food for thought, new perspectives, or any new ideas or anything worth chatting about. If so, I'll see you guys again tomorrow morning. Other than that, enjoy your Monday. Peace.